Hey, what's going on, team? It's Ricky with TechBud Solutions. I have Nick Palladino here, who is my partner for all the house flips that we do. And we actually went ahead and on Instagram, we asked all of you guys, what are some top questions you want answered? So first off, if you guys don't follow us on Instagram and you're wanting to learn more, a little bit more about real estate and how to get started, especially for 2022, if that's a resolution you have, it's going to be linked in the description, both my Instagram and Nick's, of course. So if you have any questions, even beyond this video, we encourage you, feel free to message us and of course follow for updates on all the different house flips that we have going on. As of right now, if I'm not mistaken, we have a total of 6 projects, meaning 6 different houses that we are in the works of flipping. I thought it would be a really good idea to not just provide you, some insight on a grand and very, extreme flip where, we go through all the renovations, but as well as, one of the first flips Nick and I took advantage of was a very simple flip. So I wanted to break down in the simplest form one of the flips that we did that was about $20,000 in renovation, and then another flip that we did that was a little bit over $70,000 in renovation, and compare and contrast the two so you get a better understanding as you're just getting started. Do you want to take on a big flip project, or maybe starting small and scaling can be a way to get started? One of the first questions that I actually want to answer, and this is actually coming from Instagram, and let me go ahead and make sure I get his name. So it's Junaid, and he's asking, how do you find contractors on your first flip? So one of the biggest things that I would personally suggest is that based off of the connections that we were able to establish with a previous flipper, some of you guys might know him, especially if you guys follow us from Instagram. His name's Lenny, and he was a huge positive influence. He's pretty much a mentor for Nick and myself. Nick is actually a real estate agent under Lenny's brokerage, and just by being able to do a flip, kind of just with him kind of like overseeing everything, we were able to build relationships and build our connections with the contractors that he used. Again, just speaking from our experience and how we were able to build our list, one contractor knowing another. I feel like once you kind of get your foot in the door, it's very easy, especially if you're niched down in a specific area. You become very well aware of what contractors to work with, especially if you have 6 different projects going on, how you can overlap them and stuff like that. So that's a great question. And also, just like we said, right, for our first flip, we had Lenny to kind of guide us, as he was very well experienced. If you guys are ever in the Arizona area and need assistance with your first flip, I hope that we're one message away. Feel free to message Nick Palladino. Again, his Instagram is linked down below. And if you have any specific questions, especially if you're looking to flip your first property, we'd love to, either work with you and or be of value to you. So I'm going to go ahead and let Nick break down this Florence flip, break down how we came across it, so how we found the deal, everything that went into it, and then I'm going to be explaining a couple of things at the end.
Yeah, so this is one of our most recent ones. We actually just got it under contract the other day, and it's closing in about 25 days, so it's a fairly quick close. We picked this up November 1st, 2021. One thing I do want to note is this was a post-possession pickup, so it means basically we got this from a wholesaler, and we allowed the tenant that was currently living in the property, we gave them 2 weeks after we closed for them to move out, which kind of slowed down our entire renovation process. It took, I want to say, almost 2 months to get this done, when it could have probably taken 6 weeks because we couldn't do any work to it. So we got it offered to us at $255,000. After closing costs, we're at $259,000, and we ended up actually having this daisy chain down between 2 different wholesalers. So the first wholesaler, I think, got it for, I think they made $15,000 on it, and then the second wholesaler made $4,000 on it. So we tend to see that a lot. A couple of our properties right now, it goes through one wholesaler, and then a wholesaler presents it to us. As long as the deal makes sense from the price we're getting it offered at, we will take it. We don't mind if multiple people basically are making a profit on it. So then this is the one that we spent only $21,000 on. It was a pretty new build, 2004 build, so we didn't really have to do much besides cosmetic upgrades. You guys can see right there our renovation list: appliances, trash removal. We did some flooring in there, and then pretty much just exterior and interior paint. One thing I do want to note on painting, Lenny actually brought this up to me recently, is pretty much no matter what you do, no matter how new the paint is, it's almost always a good ROI to paint a property. So here's some before pictures as well. And then whenever you do paint, always make sure if you're in an HOA to get HOA approval on it. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty good condition besides just the carpet was absolutely destroyed. It needed a fresh paint inside and outside. So this was a very straightforward flip. Not huge profit margins on it, and we knew that going into it, but we also knew that it was going to be a very light rehab with not a lot of anything that was going to be hidden behind the walls that we were going to have to remedy. So that's why we took it on. It was just a little bit of a lower risk property. And then holding costs as well. So this is one thing you guys want to keep in mind. Ricky pays for all these houses, so we don't actually have holding costs through a hard money lender, which saves us a little bit of money on that. But you are going to have your insurance, you're going to have your water bill, you're going to have your electric bill, and sometimes you're going to have a gas bill as well. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Fortunately, on this one, it was only about $300. We still are holding this property, so it's probably going to be right around $300 when we close on it. And then the total expenses right here, $21,678 for reno. We have holding costs of $284, and the purchase price all in basically are $259,000 with what we bought it for all in. And then estimated closing costs on the sale end of it. This includes commissions from the both buyer and seller agent. I am the listing agent on this, so I take less of a commission than what I would normally do, or what we would normally do if we were listing it with someone else. So we're estimating about $12,000 in that, making our total expenses $293,000 on this property, and we ended up listing it for $315,000. And within 12 hours after listing it, we got an over ask offer of $319,500, making our total profit $26,484 on this property. Like I said, it's not anything crazy. We try to get 10% cash on cash return, meaning if we're going to invest for this property, for example, our 10% cash on cash return would be we invested $264,000 essentially. So we're a little less than 10% on this, but like I said, it was very straightforward, low risk, and that's why we took it on.
So now I personally wanted to show you the after, right? So one of the first things that some of you guys might ask if you don't understand what a wholesaler is, he was talking about it being double wholesale. The wholesale means that it's an off, honestly, not even always, but normally an off-market listing that they were able to, arrange this contract that the seller was willing to sell this house for a set dollar amount. Sometimes those contracts get resold and then resold to the point where we end up acquiring it if, like he said, the numbers make sense. So this house was never posted on the MLS. It was never posted publicly. That's what it means by it being an off-market listing. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that. How did we acquire it? With our connections with wholesalers. So again, another great value piece if you're wanting to get started connecting with wholesalers. And again, if you're in the Arizona area, message us, right? If we don't end up acquiring a property, but it might meet your criteria, we can hand it down to you as well. I want to show you the after pics. It's nothing crazy. And like you said, this house was acquired for $255,000 with overall a little bit over $21,000 in renovation. I'll just let you guys see. This is the front of the picture, front of the house. So in comparison to the before, you guys could see that the colors that it had much more outdated. The colors that we now have much more modern and obviously makes a lot more sense for someone wanting to have a house move-in ready. This aligns with that set criteria. Yep. This is the overall kitchen, lightening it up. This is the living room, and this is the master bedroom, if I'm not mistaken, and then This is the backyard. In comparison to most of our other flips, a super light renovation. One thing that you guys might notice right away in comparison to my other video is my other house that we ended up flipping in Gilbert had staging, meaning that the house was furnished during, while it was listed. Why would we not stage this house with furniture? I think a lot of it has to do with price point, and this is something that, again, Nick and I have learned in the past, couple of just months of flipping properties. I would say as you begin to get into like the $400,000 to $500,000 range and above, it makes sense to furnish a property, therefore to stage a property and tack on that additional expense, because when you have someone moving into that property, especially in Arizona, or trying to see themselves living there, you want to make sure that there's something that they can kind of like build an emotional connection with. When it comes down to a house in the lower $300,000 range, again, this is probably either a first-time home buyer and someone that is again, just being completely blunt with you guys, trying to buy anything it is that they can afford, right? So we don't have to take that additional step or make that additional investment of an additional $2,000 to $5,000 to stage a property, which will eat up into our margins if it doesn't actually make sense. So that's, again, one very simple point that I wanted you guys to understand. And the same thing with what he said, that normally we aim for a 10% cash on cash net return. If this house was over $500,000, if the dollar amount that I had to invest was over $500,000, we'd want to probably be more selective. If we saw it to be something that needed more renovations, we would probably not have taken on this property if the margins didn't meet with our set criteria. But because this house, again, was a very easy house where Nick can have 6, 10 different projects, this is very minimal type of contractors that you have to overlap with one another, and due to Nick's experience, it was very easy for him to kind of manage this, as again, it would be somewhat considered, in my opinion, more of a beginner flip. So for all those that are watching, if you're looking to flip your first house, this is kind of called the lipstick approach, right? Where it's very light renovation and it's more to gain experience. So again, if you're in Arizona and you're wanting to flip a property, make sure you message Nick down. His Instagram is in the description. Message him, get connected with him, and we'd love to be of assistance for you for your first flip. So now let's go ahead and talk about the numbers for the Chandler flip. This one is where it gets a little bit more juicy.
Yeah.
How did we find this flip? It was someone through Instagram.
Instagram, right? Yep. So they were actually scalping Craigslist, which we hadn't heard of before, and he was on top of it. I think within the first hour of this previous owner listing it, he actually got a hold of her. He sent it to us. It looked good for what she wanted for it, compared to what we thought the ARV was, or after renovation value. So we set up basically a walkthrough the next morning, and we locked it up that same day. We ended up paying the finder. We try to always pay about 10% profit or projected profit to our finders. So it was, we estimated about $40,000 profit on this property. So we paid him out $4,000 for just finding us, for basically just emailing the previous owner and getting the meeting set up for us. So we like to do that quite a bit. That's how we find a lot of our deals as well.
And one thing that you should know is I would say that about 40 to 50% of the flips that we do, or at least that we did last year, were properties that were presented to us by people that followed me on Instagram, right? People that watched my YouTube videos. And we've done everything, right? So if you come across a deal, if you know a friend or family that is potentially trying to sell a property, but maybe you just don't want a finder's fee, right? Maybe you want to be a little bit more involved, especially if you're in the Arizona area. We've done partnerships where we do complete rev splits, right? So the biggest focus that we have, especially I know for Nick and I for 2022, is to work with as many people that follow us and present us, value and deals, and for us to be of value to you. So if you're trying to actually learn how to flip and you want to be a part of it, I hope that you know that even when it comes down to a profit rev split is definitely something that we take into consideration. Mm-hmm. My goal is if we can do one flip every month and that's brought to us by someone that follows us, especially in the Arizona area, that'd be an amazing goal to be able to accomplish for 2022. So you want to talk about the overall renovation?
Yeah. So this was one of our biggest renovations. It was our biggest one, minus the giant Paradise Valley flip that we had. We spent a total of $73,744 on this, and it is only an 1,800 square foot house. So to put that in comparison, it was a huge cosmetic, and we also did kind of transform the floor plan a little bit. So we tore down some walls. This is an incredible before and after. I think one of my favorite flips that we've ever done, just because of the actual transformation itself. So we spent almost $5,000 just demoing the property and getting it prepped up, gutting the property, trash removal. I'd say we would actually probably over $5,000 on that alone, just kind of getting it ready for us to actually renovate it. So we did some roof repairs, and I want to talk about that a little bit later. Actually, that's actually one thing that I really do want to talk about, because the roof repair, we ended up giving credit anyways. So that $975, we should have just kind of almost replaced the roof, which is something that we could have done, but we ended up giving them credit anyways at the close, so they're going to replace the roof anyways, and we're actually splitting that in half with them. Landscaping, I think we're in $11,000 after everything, with some of the plants and stuff. In the brick wall, we actually had to repair as well. Exterior paint, all that kind of stuff was pretty standard. We did a lot of drywall stuff because we did tear down walls. We had to do a lot of drywall repairs. We got all new doors, all new frames, all new baseboards, all new cabinets as well. So the cabinets was a huge expense. We did flooring in here. Our handyman labor, just the labor alone, was almost $10,000. So we were at $8,000 in that alone. Countertops, we had to reroute the plumbing and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where the majority of our budget went, was just kind of redoing the floor plan, getting everything fresh in there. Cabinets are always one of the most expensive things. We don't always do new cabinets, but we needed to on this property for the price point we were listing it at, and needed new cabinets for sure. Yeah, and then what else? We did 2 whole bathroom renovations as well. And then we had some repairs with we actually had to remove a tree because of a BINSA request or an inspection request on there.
I think this is one of the first properties that, other than the Paradise Valley flip, where we went back and forth so many times
Yeah.
based off of so many things being brought up during
Yeah.
the inspection period. So, like, for an example, if you don't understand that, we posted the house for sale, we received an above asking price offer. We're under contract, right? We sold the house. I mean, we are under contract to sell the house. They still have, 30 to 45 days to close on the house. And during that time, there's an inspection. And during that inspection, they brought up, the roof, they brought up the backyard, they brought up a bunch of different things where there was just a lot of negotiation and credits that took place and that ate into our margins. But again, like Nick said, could we have potentially gotten away with, a better or original renovation to the roof, so therefore we didn't have to give the credit? Definitely. But again, just to make it easier for both parties, we're able to negotiate by being able to credit half.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to. The roof was in decent condition. We got an estimate of about 6 years left on it, but part of the negotiation was they wanted a completely new roof, and we felt that was fair. We're obviously not going to give them a house that we weren't comfortable selling, so I don't want to make it sound like that.
Yep.
But it's just part of the process, so that's something we had to negotiate between ourselves too.
I want to show them right the before and after. So this is the Chandler house. This is how, when Nick and myself pulled up to it, this is what it looked like. I thought it looked really rough. The backyard, just so you guys know, all these weeds that you see right on over here were actually growing into the house. Like, I'm inside the house and I can see the weeds and the grass growing into it, right? So I pointed that out to the owner. You guys just can see that this whole backyard, like, that's a $12,000 renovation because of this huge, like, cactus palm tree looking thing. It was just like, it was so heavy, and the biggest expense that we've ever had when it came down to a landscape expense. This was one of the master bedrooms, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. This was the kitchen. Again, why didn't we reuse the cabinets? Well, I'm sure you can see, right, why we wouldn't reuse those or just repaint them. Again, very, very outdated. And we went from this, and Nick and Mark, right? So Mark is actually someone that we kind of had interning with us, and fortunately now he's working with us. But they took this Chandler house flip and turned it into this. So again, the overall exterior of the house, you guys can see that it's a much more updated look. This is now the kitchen. They completely went off on it with, it's now a double, what is it called?
Double island.
Yeah, double island. And then this is just a better picture of the overall kitchen. Much more open. They took down the wall, right? A much more open look. Brand new cabinets, just, again, and staged, right? In comparison to the previous property. This one, we intended to have over that $500,000 mark. So it made sense. If not, right, this would have just really looked like a big old, just like open rectangle of a house. But by being able to stage it, again, you give it much more character, something that, where the buyer can potentially see themselves living in. This was the bathroom where, again, I feel like they did an absolute amazing job. And when it comes down to the backyard, just really simplified it and made it look very attractive, especially for the year that the property was. So now when it comes down to the overall numbers of the property, after all the overall total renovations of $73,000, do you want to talk about holding costs?
Yeah, holding costs, luckily in Arizona, when it's the winter time, it's pretty low. When you get one in the summertime, you may actually really need to figure out numbers on that because the electric bill can go way up. But we were pretty low on this. I want to say $830 in holding costs, and that's pretty much exact because we're actually closing on this property on Wednesday. So that's going to pretty much be exactly what we're going to be at. And then purchase price all in with the finder's fee and everything, we're at $385,000. Closing costs on the sell end with commissions, with that closing credit that I talked about, we are at $30,000. So that was a pretty high closing cost, but it was mostly because of the credit that we offered them. Total expenses all in on this property, $490,000. And we ended up accepting an offer I don't even. It was like almost $20,000 over list price for $543,500, making a total profit $52,771. One thing I do want to note is if you guys do 10% cash on cash return, we were over our $49,000, which would have been 10%. So we're at 52,000. So we are over our what we wanted on this one. It did take a little bit longer. We were just also really busy during this time, and we're still building out our contractors list, so we had to kind of overlap quite a bit. Could have probably taken maybe a 30 days less, but overall $433 a day profit, which I think is really, really good on this property. So
Yep. And again, one thing that we have, like I would say the real benefit in is we don't have hard money lenders. We don't have people that we have to pay interest on every single month. So one of the questions that was actually brought to me through Instagram is, do I need to pay for this house cash and or do I just need to put a down payment? So when it comes down to buying a house, period, right? You can qualify traditionally, right? You take that 30-year loan. When it comes down with your intention wanting to flip it, I wouldn't say that would be, I would say, the best approach. And also you need to think about it for the seller. Is the seller going to want to wait 30 to 45 days when you're trying to get a really good deal to try to close on that property? Or if you pay cash, right? So when you pay cash for a property, you can close 2 weeks or sooner, right? So you need to understand it's viewed as less risk and less time wasted for a seller to sell it to someone that is paying cash. Does every seller care about paying cash? No, definitely not. And do you always need to pay cash? No, definitely not. You can get a traditional loan. You can get a hard money lender, but you also have to take into consideration if we would have had a hard money lender for nearly $500,000, right? At 122 days, I mean, that would be at 12%, which is pretty average. That would be about
4 months, 4%.
$5,000 every single month. 4 months, yeah, about $20,000. Our net profits would have been cut from $52,000 to about $32,000. So again, that's a big chunk of change. If that's not an expense that you want to put yourself through, and especially if your first flip is even, to this degree of the amount of renovations, you would probably take a lot longer. I mean, you've seen it firsthand where some people that are flipping properties, it's been 6 months and they still haven't posted it for sale. It could be due to the lack of experience, the lack of, connections when it comes down to the contractors. And if you have a hard money lender, the amount of fees that you tack on, it can literally erase all of your net profits. So again, if you're someone that's trying to flip and you don't necessarily have the cash, but you are really good at either sourcing deals or you have a deal, message us on Instagram. We'll pay for the property cash. You don't have to worry about that. The biggest value that you provide to us is that you're presenting the deals. And one thing that I actually also wanted to say is not just with this listing, but with one of the other listings that we've actually are working on right now, we're connecting with a lot of real estate agents. So if you're a real estate agent and you're in Arizona, please message Nick. Again, his link is in the description. And anytime that you're about to list a property, if you're a new real estate agent, if you're about to get your license, we want to connect with all of you. If you can add us to your buyers list, and again, we'll be a cash buyer, send us your deals even before they hit the market. So if we can be even of value to you guys, which will be of value to the people that you're listing for a quick close and an easy close, I would love the opportunity to be able to work with you guys on a closer basis. But other than that, is there anything that you wanted to say?
No, and then as the agent thing, basically you would represent us as your client. So yeah, we'd pay the normal commission if you find an on-market deal or whatnot.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, anything, right? When it comes down to
we're
just making sure that both parties get paid. Existing real estate agent, if you're not even an agent, but you're just really good at sourcing deals, we want to be able to connect with, again, as many people as we can, especially for 2022. And one of the last things that I personally, is there anything that you wanted to?
That's pretty much everything.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and see if I can find this one. It doesn't look like I can. All right. Well, dang it.
What was it? It was like,
I guess it's like, do you need a real estate license? But
oh yeah.
Yeah. So one of the questions that we got asked is, do you need a real estate license? Obviously, when it comes down to flipping, no, you don't need a real estate license. But being like very well connected. I'm sure any successful real estate flipper will tell you the same thing, where being connected with very just creative and useful real estate agents, it never hurts, right? Especially having Nick as my partner and being able to get that reduced commission on the selling part. Every percent counts, especially when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Which again, do you need your real estate license? Do you need to get it? No, but if you want to, it doesn't hurt, right? But also connecting and working with real estate agents, which is why I think, even for all of you guys, if you're trying to buy a house, if you're trying to flip your first property and you're thinking about potentially getting your license to not, take on that additional expense of the commission, then feel free to reach out to Nick. He could either assist you and or guide you in the right direction based off of his experience. But yeah, I mean, wanted to show you the before and after of some of the flips that we had and have going on. As of right now, like we said, we have a total of 6 projects going on. If there's
Seven, actually.
Oh, 7. If there's any specific questions that you want answered, comment those down below. But again, if your goal for 2022 is to even buy your first house or flip your first house or just be a part of a house flip, click the first link in the description. That's going to be Nick's Instagram. Message him, get connected. And real estate agent or not, we want just the opportunity to be able to work with you, especially for 2022. So really do appreciate you guys' time. Hope that earned your thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. And like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.